In this video, I'm going to provide an overview for Project 2, and you can see here that Project 2 consists of 6 exercises, each which build on the one before. We're going to begin by creating an as-built floor plan for a non-residential space without measuring it, and we're going to document the furniture inside of it. Then we're going to think about using the furniture within that non-residential space in a redesign for a day center that serves those experiencing homelessness. So we're going to then develop a concept board that expresses some of the needs of those experiencing homelessness. Then we're going to create a furniture plan and an inventory for a day center, utilizing some of the pieces of furniture that we saw in our early measure. Then we're going to create a specification book and make some selections for our day center. And then finally, we're going to take all of these selections, as well as those items that we can repurpose, and create a new final floor plan for a non-residential space. So let's get started. Project 2, Exercise 1 is to create an as-built floor plan for a non-residential space. Now, this assignment serves two functions. The first is it teaches you how to measure a space without actually having a tape measure and drawing it while you're sitting inside without having any documentation from a camera. So it's just really a way to get a quick understanding of how large a space is if you don't have all the resources you might ordinarily have with you to document it. And that happens pretty frequently. So there's two examples here. The first one on the left, it was created by a professor, and the one on the right is created by a student. And you can see here that each box on this 1/4-inch graph paper represents an 1/8-inch scale. So an 1/8 inch here represents 1 foot, or one box here represents 2 feet. So again, this is 1/8-inch scale drawn on 1/4-inch graph paper. So each box represents 2 feet. And you can see here, both of these drawings are kind of rough sketches, but they definitely give all of the information about what we're looking at, and areas are clearly differentiated. And again, at the close of this assignment, hopefully you have a better understanding based on the instructions of how to measure a space and use clues within the space to create a floor plan. The other part of this project comes in Project 2, Exercise 2, and this is a furniture inventory for a non-residential space. Now, the place that you measured in Exercise 1 should have some furniture in it, and the idea is that we're going to repurpose as much of this furniture that we see in the space that we measured into a day center that we're going to be designing. And this happens rather frequently. Perhaps you have a client or a project and some existing furniture is already there, and your client wants you to, tell them where they can reuse it in their new project. And so the first thing that we have to do is, of course, document the existing furniture. So you're going to be creating a furniture inventory for the restaurant that you've measured. And you can see here, upon the floor plan that I created in the previous exercise, I have now added furniture pieces that I was able to measure based on the size of the floor tiles that they were sitting on. I was able to estimate the size. So you can see here, I actually measured and noted and numbered all of the furniture here by giving it a furniture designation. And so you can see here the number 1 here refers to the number 1 here. I did a little sketch of a bar stool, and then I described it. I counted how many were available in my restaurant. I gave a quick estimate for the dimensions, and I gave a description of the materials. For example, here, number 5, single-sided booth. You can see here, number 5 appears right here and right here. So there's 2 of those, and they're single-sided, and there's the dimension. So you can see the key to this assignment is to draw the furniture to scale, create a rough sketch of how it looks like on your furniture inventory, and be able to designate each piece of furniture with, as it says here, a number, and count how many are available to us, and provide the dimensions and the finish and material. So at the close of this assignment, we have all the information we need to move forward to design our next space. We've got the size of the space. We know how to measure a space by sitting inside of it. And now we have an inventory of furniture that we can now use to design the next space. Now, you may have different furniture in your design than I have in mine, and that's okay. As long as you have all of this information in your furniture inventory and it's all drawn by hand, then you are set. Here's a student example. You can see here, this was a much smaller restaurant that she measured, but that's okay. It still works really great. You can see here again, same floor plan drawn at on 1/4 inch graph paper, but it's to 1/8 inch scale. So each one of these boxes represents 2 feet in real life. And you can see here, there was just 3 different types of furniture here. There's a lot of this kind of chair designated by this furniture designation number 1. 2 dining tables you can see here, and then just 1 little square dining table over here. So there's not a lot of furniture for her to repurpose, but what is available has been accurately measured and noted. Exercise 3 is where we develop a concept board. And so now we're going to shift to the design of a day center that serves those experiencing homelessness. But we're going to, as I said, take as much of the furniture from that previous assignment and put it into our new project. But we also have to develop a concept board that indicates to our client that we know how to use research to develop a design concept. And so you've been provided a PDF that's got all these different design guidelines and recommendations. And so what I want you to do is focus in on these design guidelines right here. These are all the things that a person experiencing homelessness really needs to have to feel comfortable in a space that they're visiting or occupying for an extended period of time. These are the uh, ways in which you can do that. These are the attributes, the design attributes of spaces that you can incorporate within your design to meet these design guidelines. And so go ahead, take your time and reference that document and then develop a concept board. And you can see a template's been provided for you. And here's what you can see in your template. You can see that these 3 design guidelines have been selected. We want our users to feel a connection to nature, a sense of privacy, and we want to reduce the environmental stressors that occur inside. And so I've looked at those design guidelines and selected those 3, and then I've looked at all those physical attributes that were listed before, and I've figured out how I can use those physical attributes to meet these design guidelines. So you can see here, I have created a connection to nature by both wall treatments here, this finish down here, which is allowing kind of some transparency, as well as this piece of furniture that's evoking nature with the grass cloth. I've also selected a piece of furniture here that uh, provides some comfort and privacy, as well as a finish down here that absorbs sound, which would offer some privacy for, quiet conversations and things of that nature. To reduce environmental stressors, you can see I've created this little digital kiosk here that provides information about perhaps who's next in line to get services, as well as this finish here, which is going to be nice and soft and reduce any distractions for filling out paperwork. So you can see here, once again, there's 3 different design guidelines that I'm trying to meet, and I've selected 3 pieces of FF&E, so furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and 3 finishes, each that support one of those design guidelines. You can see I've also developed a design concept where I've focused on how I want the user to feel inside. Here's a couple of student examples here, and you can see they've got theirs set up in a slightly different way. The design guidelines here is engage in a dynamic multi-sensory environment, and so you can see there's a selection of furniture here that supports that, a description of how it happens, as well as a finish here. And we've got another design guideline here, reinforce a sense of personal identity. And so again, you can see the furniture that supports that and a finish or a piece of artwork that does so. And then you can see here, promote self-reliance, and again, a piece of furniture or design element and finish. And the same thing is happening here. And you can see here that all the elements are consistent. So again, design guideline, piece of furniture, finish for each one, and then a description of how all of these physical attributes support those design guidelines. So that's project 2, exercise 3. Next, what we do is we're going to create a preliminary furniture plan and inventory for this non-residential space. So now imagine that you have met with your client and they've said, okay, we're closing down that restaurant. We're going to take as much furniture as we can. And now we're going to open up a day center in this new space. And perhaps this floor plan has already been created based on all the things in the program that users of this space will need. And so now imagine you're being handed this floor plan and you're saying, okay, tell me where you're going to put the existing furniture that you brought in from that restaurant and figure out what pieces of new furniture we're going to need. And so you can see in this example, the student, remember, this is the furniture that they're bringing in from their restaurant. And so there's also some existing furniture. And so you can see here, E1, that's existing furniture. And that's what they're pulling from over here. See, they put the E because it stands for existing and the 1 to indicate that piece of furniture. So they've got 14 of those chairs. And I bet if I counted, there's 14 E1s on here. For E2, existing furniture number 2, let's see, where did they put E2, E2, E2? Oh, they're going to use this dining table, E2, and they're going to put it over here to use it as an exam table. And then the other one, they've got 3 to choose from. They're going to put another one here, that's E2. The case manager is going to use that as a desk. Okay, so you can see here now they've figured out a way to repurpose this furniture and bring it over into this new floor plan. But you can see because they didn't have very much furniture coming in, they're going to need a lot more new furniture. And so you can see here the new furniture, essentially what the client's going to need to buy, is indicated with an N. And then the numbers numbering, starting at number 1. So here, N1, so they're going to need a new chair and they're going to need 4 of those. And then they move on to N2, N3, N4, N5, etc. So you can see here, N2 is over here, okay? N3 is over here. This is another type of lounge chair that they're gonna need. So they've marked this floor plan to indicate what's existing that they can bring over from their old restaurant and what is going to be new. Here's my example. Now I had a lot more furniture coming in here. You can see it's all right here. That's from my original restaurant measure. And so I've marked on this plan, okay? So for example, E10, so that's existing piece of furniture number 10. So I look over here and I go, oh, okay, that's number 10. So that's the dining table, 4 feet by 2 feet. Okay, that's what I'm gonna put there. Do I have enough? Let's see how many. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. That worked out great because I have 4 here, okay? You can see here, another example, E2, let's see, E2, I need a bunch of those here. And look, existing chair number 2 is this one, okay? So you can see I've repurposed almost all of the furniture here and I've made it useful over here. Now the furniture that I could not bring over or put to use from my restaurant that my client needs to buy has been also once again indicated with an N. And each new furniture type has been offered a number. And so it starts at N1, you can see right here, N2, N3 over here. So again, there's 4 of these, okay, that my client needs to purchase, but they are all new, and it's the 3rd chair that I need to buy, and so that's why they got 3. Okay. So the next part of that assignment is we've already created the preliminary furniture plan, but now we have to create this inventory. And so you've been provided a template. And so you can see here, this is the sort of the furniture inventory that indicates to me and my design team what we need to select. So you can see here, E1, that's already been used. This is the existing furniture. And now I've copied it from that hand-drawn list that I created in my initial measure, and I've put it in something that's a little bit easier to read. So there's no photo available, right? Because I wasn't allowed to take pictures in there. So there's no photo. But what I do have is the key designation that matches the number on the plan, how many I have, the dimensions, and the materials. And again, that was all pulled from that original restaurant measure. Now, the next thing I have is all the news, and this is the seating section. So you can see it goes N1 all the way to N9. I need a lot of different pieces of furniture here that I have to purchase. And you can see I've got the task chair wherever it says N1, and I've counted 5 of those. Okay, I've got a guest chair. I need 7 of those. So this is really your shopping list. We don't have pictures yet because we haven't specified it. But right now we can see All the new furniture has been indicated and is now on here. Now this is just the first page. There's some tables here that I'm going to need. There's some, coolers and things like that. And that's on the next page of my furniture inventory. Remember, it's broken up by seating, tables, storage, etc. And so all you have to do is just indicate what's existing, what's new, how big is it, how much do we need, okay? Project 2 exercise 5 is when you become a little bit more specific, and now you're going to start to select the pieces of furniture. So what you're going to do is select 3 new pieces of furniture and 3 new finishes. And so imagine that your client now says, okay, I've got some money. I can approve some purchase of some furniture. I don't know exactly if we'll be able to afford all the pieces of furniture, but why don't you select 3 new pieces of furniture and 3 new finishes? So what you as a designer want to do is you want to make sure that you select the 3 pieces of furniture that are really going to have the most impact on kind of, expressing those design guidelines, bringing out a beautiful look to this day center and really serving the users. And so you can see the one example that I've pulled out here is N1. That's one of the ones, the chairs that it's going to get a lot of use. So that selection is really important. So I've downloaded the specification template and you can see I've filled in a lot of the blanks. Now this template's been provided for you and there's some things that you can leave, but then there's some other things that you're going to have to go ahead and delete because it's, really just kind of explanations on here. So just make sure as you fill in this furniture specification for the piece of furniture that you use. You go to the website, you get all the information, and then you delete all unnecessary information from the template. Now, again, you're going to do this 3 times. You may choose to do N1, let's say N3 and E10 N2 since you're going to see a lot of that. And you can see how I've got a photograph of the piece of furniture and the upholstery. So you'll do 3 of those. The next thing you're going to do is specify 3 finishes. Now, the 3 finishes that you specify are up to you, but this is how you code them. If you're going to do a flooring finish, it's F for flooring and it's finish number 1. Now, there might be more than one finish in here. Let's say you wanted to specify the finish that went out here and the finish that went out here. You would put a triangle on your plan for F1 here, and you put a triangle on your plan with F2 here. But I've also provided the symbols for a solid surface. I've provided a symbol for if you wanted to change the wall covering. So W stands for wall covering. C stands for countertop, or actually in this case, it's not countertop, it's ceiling. So the ceiling treatment here. So you just have to pick 3 finishes that you want to specify: flooring, solid surface, wall treatment, or ceiling. And once again, use the template and the websites that have been provided and create a specification sheet and make sure that you change the symbol to match the symbol that you put here and put all the manufacturer's information here, deleting any extra information that you don't need or that does not apply. The final part of this assignment is exercise 6, which is the final floor plan for your non-residential space. So now imagine you've got this floor plan, you've figured out what's going to be, what furniture is going to be new, what furniture is going to be existing, and you've selected all of these finishes. And now you have to redraw it to reflect those finishes and furniture because, of course, maybe the selections that you've made are not the same size or shape as the ones that were on the original plan. So what you need to do is begin by tracing over that floor plan that's been provided for you, making sure that you transfer all the information. There's one label here that's missing, which is on the original plan, and it says all unmarked furniture will be obtained through fundraising events. And that's really important because the rest of the furniture is going to have labels. So what you need to do first on this floor plan is make sure that you show the repurposed furniture from the original restaurant measure. Now, that may be on here by this student, but there's a mistake because this student did not label it with the E1, E2, E3. Remember? So there may be some, but it's not labeled here. The next thing you need to make sure that you put is the new selections that you created from the furniture specifications. And of course, maybe there's other ones that your client has not been able to pay for yet, but are still new. And you can see those are here, N1, N2, N3. There's some over here as well. Okay, but there's some other things that were new that aren't marked here. So there's another mistake on this plan, right? For example, are these new or are they existing? Okay, we don't know. Then what you need to do is the remaining furniture from the plan provided. The balance of the furniture that's left, what you haven't brought in from the restaurant, what you haven't specified from your specification assignment, whatever is left over, you need to trace that in as well from the original plan. You can use the shapes that I've provided, and you need to label those as N as well because those need to be new. Then what you have to do is add in the textures from your finished specification. So if you have, let's say, wood planks here, and you've got tile here, and maybe you've got wallpaper here, maybe you can see the finishes applied, maybe you can't. But if they're on the floor or on the countertop, you should be able to see them on this plan. You should also make sure that you've got your finish tags. And so you can see here, the wall finish you can't see, but and it's actually not the right symbol. And neither is the floor symbol. She labeled it, but it's not the correct shape. Remember, flooring symbols are triangles. So, and then the final thing you have to do is just make sure you've got all the key designations on your furniture, okay? New and existing. All right. So this is really where all of the decisions you've made up to this point have come together. And so you can see here, you've got the information from that original restaurant measure. It comes in the form of the existing furniture that's going to be labeled. You've got the furniture that you're going to repurpose, you've got the furniture that you've specified, and you've got all those finishes, and it all comes together in this final plan. So this project is very detailed. It's a lot of information, but it's a very, very true to life experience because there's going to be a lot of projects that you encounter that have existing furniture from an old location that you have to put into a new location and designate, and then also develop that really long shopping list of all the things your client needs. And once you've done that, you have a complete project.